Hi, everybody, and welcome to my blogging intro. I'm so glad you're here. What we're going to do today is talk just a little bit about blogs, why I get so excited about them, and then cut you loose on choosing your topic for your blog that you'll be working on this semester. All right, but real quick, what's a blog? Because I know you're dying to know. Well, first thing is it's short for a weblog. That's what they called them 8-10 years ago, a weblog. It got shortened to blog, which is really like an online journal. Sure, it's a website, but it's usually a chronological website with the newest content, the newest stuff that you've posted on top. Speaking of content, that's what this is all about. And I want to talk about that first before we go deeper into blogs. It's all about the content. So much of us, you, me, the folks around us, we're really great at consuming things online. Flipboard is filled with content created by other people. Obviously YouTube, content created by other people. Every website, content created by other people. What excites me about you taking the opportunity to work on a blog is that now you're going to become a content provider. You're adding to the richness of the internet. Because let's face it, if you and I didn't blog, if thousands and millions of other people didn't blog, if people didn't put up websites, if they didn't create YouTube clips, if they didn't do podcasts, the internet would be a much drier place. It would be less rich. It would be less interesting. You're here to contribute to what makes the web so interesting and compelling. And that's going to be through a blog. Let's take a look at some examples first. I love these examples. But first, let's enjoy a little video where Clay Shirky, in a TED Talk from 2012, talks about one blogger's experience. Here we go. I'll watch with you.
I want to talk to you today about something the open source programming world can teach democracy. But before that, a little preamble. Let's start here. This is Martha Payne. Martha's a 9-year-old Scot who lives in the Council of Argyll and Bute. A couple months ago, Payne started a food blog called Never Seconds. And she would take her camera with her every day to school to document her school lunches. Can you spot the vegetable? And as sometimes happens, this blog acquired first dozens of readers, and then hundreds of readers, and then thousands of readers as people tuned in to watch her rate her school lunches, including on my favorite category, pieces of hair found in food. This was a 0 days. That's good. And then 2 weeks ago yesterday, she posted this. Post that read, "Goodbye." And she said, "I'm very sorry to tell you this, but my head teacher pulled me out of class today and told me I'm not allowed to take pictures in the lunchroom anymore. I really enjoyed doing this. Thank you for reading. Goodbye." You can guess what happened next, right? The outrage was so swift, so voluminous, so unanimous that the Council of Argyll and Bute reversed themselves the same day and said we would never censor a 9-year-old, except of course this morning. And this brings up the question: what made them think they could get away with something like that?
And it's a really great question because in the world of the web and in the world of blogs, your blog, my blog, can have a significant reach. We can have the same reach that 10 years ago a print magazine or newspaper would have had. A TV show that came on only at 7 o'clock on Sunday nights could have. You can develop a following if you put energy and interesting content into it. Let's talk about another blog. Teenage Glutster. Teenage Glutster was founded by a high school student named Javier. Javier lived, and I think still lives, in LA, in East LA, and what Javier was fascinated by as a high school student, what he was really into was the food that he and his friends ate. Not fancy food, but the food that was around the corner, at the taqueria, at the burrito stand, the street food, from the food truck, what his folks, what his friends were eating and enjoying. He loved this food so much that he started a blog about it on his own. Nobody made him do it. He just started blogging about it, doing restaurant reviews, taking pictures of food. The way I learned about his blog, Teenage Glutster, was that he was an inspiration for the LA Times food critic, the person who blogs for the LA Times newspapers and reviews food. And I was reading a New Yorker article about their reviewer, and he said that he got some of his leads for restaurants to visit from the blog you're looking at right now, Teenage Glutster. How cool is that, that a high school student's blog was influencing what a professional journalist chose to write about? Now, what's happened with the Teenage Glutster since then is that he's closed down Teenage Glutster, and now it's theglutster.com, and he's developed a career around food and blogging and restaurants and food writing, and I think a little bit of food photography, all because he was willing to take that step. All right, let's get back to what we're talking about. We're talking about blogs. And let's get back to our presentation. You can tell I'm really excited about these. Why do people blog? Well, in some cases, they're blogging to share a diary, a personal diary. And this might be password protected, totally locked down. Or it might be a public diary that, frankly, maybe should be locked down. We're not going to be doing a personal diary. Another reason people might choose to blog is to promote something. An author, a screenwriter, an artist might blog to keep their presence out there with the people who enjoy their work, who follow their career. And that's a great way to use a blog to promote your individual work or that of a business, because it's maintaining that constant connection with people. And by constant, I think that's really important, because as you start to look at other blogs that are successful, you'll see that one of the things that makes them successful is that regular contribution to their blog. And that comes in the form of a blog post that you've got to regularly add to your blog. So let's take a look at what makes up a blog. So here we're scrolling through a blog about 3D printing. Hey, it happens to be my own. And what you're seeing is individual blog posts cruise by. And a blog post can be text only. It can be text and words. It could include a video. It could include audio. Each blog post, again, is posted chronologically, newest material on top. And if you take a look at a blog post, it might be long, it might be short. It might have options so that people can share it. Hopefully it will have some comments. This is one of mine. It didn't. The comments are what are wonderful because they keep a blogger motivated. So that's a quick breakdown of what makes up a blog. But let's talk about why you're going to blog. And we're attaching this to the snapshot project that you've already worked with. We want you to take something that you know about, or you're learning about, or you're passionate about, or some combination of all the above, something that fascinates you, something that is so interesting, you could blog about it. You could have something to write about, let's say twice a week. And that's what we'd like for you to adopt as your topic. It's taking that idea of sharing something about yourself, but that isn't on the level of personal, because there are enough websites where you can get your personal diary on, but taking something and sharing it with the world. Because what that means is now you're sharing it with a much broader audience. Let's break this down for a second. I mean, if you think about it, much of what you experienced in school, much of what I experienced in school, you'd write a paper, you'd stay up all night, you'd write it, you'd hand it to your teacher. Your teacher grades it. They look at it, they give you a grade, and it comes back to you. How many people looked at that? The teacher looked at it, you hopefully looked at it, maybe you shared it with somebody else to proofread it, but it was a pretty small audience. If you consider blogging, you're now sharing what you know or what you're learning or what you're passionate about with a potential audience that could be global. And that's what can be so exciting about blogging too. When you start to get those visitors coming in, you see your stats in your blog going up. You got 5 visitors, then you got 7, then you got 10, then you got 20, Then maybe you get your first comment from somebody you know, which means a friend of yours looked at it. And then maybe at some point you get a really cool comment from someone you've never met, but who really appreciated what you were enjoying on your blog. That's gratifying, that's motivating, and that's what keeps you going back to your blog again and again and again. Because you're getting that feedback and you're making that connection with other people. When it comes to choosing your topic, this is so important. I can't say this clearly enough, but I will. You do not have to be an expert in the area that you choose. It's okay if you are beginning the process, if you're just learning. So for example, I blog about 3D printers in the classroom. I don't do it as regularly as I should, but I do it. I'm not an expert. I've only been working with 3D printers for 2 years. So part of what I've been blogging about is my process, as I've learned, as I've had successes, as I've had some failures, and moving on from that. You don't have to be an expert. Please don't sit there and stress as you look at picking this topic and think, oh my gosh, I don't know enough to blog, so I'm just not going to do it. Think about what you're interested in. And if you can't think of something, what would your best friend say? Oh, I totally know you. You should blog about this because you're always talking about it, and I love hearing you talk about it, and it's so interesting, and you've got to share it with other people. What is it you're fascinated by? What are your hobbies? What do you do outside of school besides homework? What do you talk about with your friends? That friend that has the same interests that you do. What are you guys talking about? Once more, these aren't personal journals. It's important to choose a topic that isn't just about you, but the topic is about an interest of yours. I'll also ask that you don't combine topics. You might be fascinated by raising chickens in the backyard and surfing. But those two don't go well together. Choose one. And I know that can be difficult to focus on backyard chickens or surfing because you're fascinated by both. But choose accordingly because you could write about both equally well. As you're thinking about your topic, keep in mind, could you blog about it twice a week? Say you're fascinated by, I don't know, snail racing. Is there a lot to write about so you could blog about it twice a week? Are there videos on YouTube that you could post often? Are there people you could interview? Are there products related to snail racing that you could review? If not, it might be interesting to you, and I'm glad, but I think you need to step back from it a little bit and look for a topic that might be a little broader and more accessible. So, what you're going to do right now, open up a blank email and address it to me, rmilstead@gmail.com. Type the word blog in the subject line and answer these two questions. What's the focus of your blog? What's the topic? What's the niche that you're going to follow? 3D printing in the classroom, surfing in Marin, mountain biking, best cheap eats in Marin, hiking in Marin, fashion. What are you going to do? And then once you narrow down that topic, give me 3, that's right, 3 blog post ideas that relate to your topic. So if I did mountain biking in Marin, trail reviews, if I did trail reviews only, that would give me like a year's worth of blogging if I blogged about one a week, easily. So trail reviews would be one thing, review a trail. Another thing, of course, with any bike thing and any hobby that involves gear would be gear reviews. Whether it's tech, whether it's fashion, there's always something new to review. So that's 2 ideas, a trail review, a product review. You could also talk about technique. How do you do something? How do you do it well? How do you increase your endurance when you're on a longer ride? What's the best food to bring? And these are just ideas related to mountain biking. Again, you know what you're into. What are those 3 things, those 3 blog post ideas that you could take and really own? So I'd like you to send me those pieces of information in an email. I'll respond back to you and let you know what I think, and then we'll move from there to setting up the blog, which is your next video. Any questions, you know where to find me. Thanks for watching. Later.